Okay, it's 1300 hours. We're going to go ahead and begin this on time. We're going to have some colleagues coming in here, including our author on the Senate side, Senator Gillibrand. She'll be here momentarily, but in the interest of everyone's time, I know we have votes coming, I want to get going here. I just want to express my deepest gratitude to my colleagues here today. You see, one of the things that you're clearly going to see is this is not only bipartisan, this is bicameral. This spans all the spectrum, the ideological spectrum. We have from the Progressive Caucus to the Freedom Caucus and everybody in between. And we're joined here today with veterans. We're joined here today with a widow who's going to speak. And we're joined here today with service organizations. And we're here today to demand justice for our sailors who served in Vietnam. You know, I think that everyone here is tracking that when this law was initially passed, it excluded no one. It was about presumed coverage for those that were exposed to Agent Orange who served in the Vietnam War. And then attendant to a rule that came out in 2002, finalized in 2002, you had to have served on the ground or in the Riverine Navy to get presumed coverage. Now rest assured that these members here today, we fight every day, case by case, for the sailors who were exposed. We fight for their cases. We win some. We don't win all of them. That needs to change. The underlying law needs to change. There should be presumed coverage. And, you know, that's why we're here to do two things. One is we're calling on the Obama administration to reverse the decision that was initially made by the Bush administration and has been continued on in the Obama administration. We want to see the VA go back to the original language. And then, of course, the second thing is, and here is the senator here, too. You're going to be on just a second. God bless you. Thank you, Senator. And the second thing is that to really raise the level of consciousness about how deep and wide the support is for this critical legislation. 320 members of the United States House co-sponsors. And in the Senate with Senator Gillibrand and Senator Dane, nearly half of the Senate on this bill. And this impacts up to about perhaps as many as 90,000 sailors. And we know that there's maladies with cancer, with diabetes and Parkinson's, just to name 3 of the 8 or 9 associated maladies with exposure to Agent Orange. And that's why we're here today. And I really appreciate everyone being here. And I want to turn to our author in the Senate side, Senator Gillibrand. Thank you.
So much, Congressman. Thank you all. Good to see some of my old friends standing with me. It's wonderful. Thank you, Congressman Gibson, for not only putting together this event, but for your leadership and your determination and your stick-to-itiveness to get this bill passed. This is so important to our veterans. It's so important to our nation and to our moral character as a nation. We must stand by those who stood by us. So I want to thank all of you who are standing with us today, all of my colleagues, all of our advocates, for working so hard to pass this important legislation. Under the current VA rules, the only U.S. veterans who are counted as having been exposed to Agent Orange are people who actually walked on the ground on Vietnamese soil and the people who served on boats in Vietnamese rivers. This means that thousands of U.S. Navy veterans who were exposed to Agent Orange while stationed on ships just off the Vietnamese coastline are not being served adequately by the VA. This doesn't make any sense, and it isn't fair to those veterans who also served and also encountered Agent Orange and who are just as sick today. Agent Orange did not discriminate between those who stood on boats in rivers and those who stood on boats offshore. So why should the VA and our country discriminate against them now? Because of this arbitrary and bureaucratic rule, thousands of Navy veterans are suffering without the care they have earned. And every day we wait to change it, more Vietnam veterans continue to become ill and go into bankruptcy from trying to pay their medical bills because they aren't getting the coverage they deserve, need, and have earned from the VA. We need to pass the Blue Water Navy Vietnam Veterans Act, and Senator Daines and I will be pursuing this bill in the Vets Omnibus bill that we should get on the floor, I think, next week. So frankly, this is something the VA should have fixed on their own. There's no reason for the VA to keep rejecting these veterans, and they could change this arbitrary rule today if they only wanted to. So thank you to my colleagues. And is Senator Daines here yet? No, he'll be here shortly. But I do want to thank Senator Daines for being an outstanding partner in the U.S. Senate, for being a champion in the Senate to get this done. And I want to thank the bipartisan support of over 40 of my colleagues. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to bring up Congressman Valadao. Congressman Valadao represents Southern California. He has been a staunch supporter of this bill. He has worked really hard. He has communicated that to the leadership. We deeply appreciate the leadership he's brought to this, and I give you Congressman Valadao.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. This issue is extremely important to me personally, and is especially important to the thousands of veterans who are exposed to chemical agents during their service but are currently ineligible for benefits. I'm proud to join Congressman Gibson and all those in attendance today to bring awareness to the Blue Water Navy Vietnam Veterans Act. It is far past due that veterans receive the care and treatment they deserve, and I cannot stress enough how critical it is that the administration and the Department of Veterans Affairs get on board. Veterans throughout the United States have made immeasurable sacrifices for our nation, and we are forever indebted to those who have served. Ensuring proper health care for active and retired military personnel is especially important when it relates to the injuries sustained during the service to our nation, and is a small yet very important symbol of gratitude for their service. So thank you, Congressman Gibson.
Thank you so much. As I mentioned, this bill is very robustly bipartisan. I mean, quite candidly, there's slightly more Democrats than Republicans, and leading that formation is Joe Courtney, a tremendous representative from Connecticut who's been fighting for sailors and their families for the longest time. And I'd ask Joe to say a few words.
Thank you, Chris. As he noted, so I come from the part of Connecticut where the Groton Navy base is celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. Thousands of sailors are serving there today, and their parents and their relatives are in that region. And this arbitrary barrier to allow people to get needed help and support for life-threatening conditions and diseases is just totally unjustified and way overdue in terms of fixing. Secretary Shinseki, with the stroke of a pen, opened the door for presumptive eligibility to a whole series of ailments about 4 or 5 years ago. But again, this requirement to step foot on land, as Senator Gillibrand said, still stands, and it's time to knock that down and to allow tens of thousands of Navy veterans who served under terrible conditions in one of the country's toughest conflicts to get the help that they need. So I stand with Chris and all my colleagues to make sure this happens, and it could happen literally with the stroke of a pen. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Next, I want to bring up Senator Daines. Senator Daines, before he went to the U.S. Senate, was a co-sponsor of this bill last Congress in the U.S. House. We appreciate the collaboration, the teamwork that he has brought forward with Senator Gillibrand, and I'd like to give you now Senator Daines. Thank you. Your daughter's doing a great job.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, thank you. Today, notice Senator Gillibrand, a Democrat from New York, and myself, a Republican from Montana, are joining in this bipartisan effort. We have senators and members of Congress here fighting on behalf of our Vietnam veterans. It's to ensure that the heroes that have served our country are going to receive the care and treatment that they deserve. Senator Gillibrand and I fully intend to fight for this bill to be an amendment to the VA legislation. It's unconscionable that the VA is denying benefits for Blue Water veterans who suffer from Agent Orange. I stand here today with many, promising you that we will never stop fighting for the benefits our veterans deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Thank you. You know, what's also at stake here is really the trust in our government. This is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And this legislation, I'm sure my colleagues join me on this, is very much constituent driven. You know, the folks that are standing here today, and we're going to hear from Carol Olzanicki in a second, but I just want to say before Carol, I first learned of this issue through Susie Belanger, who's also here today from Elise Stefanik's district, and Elise, of course, is also very strong on this bill. But, you know, she explained to me how critically important it was that we address this issue. And then also, after redistricting, I picked up Carol Olzanicki in Ellenville, and Carol lost her husband to Agent Orange exposure, a sailor, at 57 years young, went to heaven. And Carol has been a tireless advocate for this. And Carol, we deeply appreciate your leadership, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much.
Yay.
Hi, my husband is gone. It'll be 14 years on June 10th. Before he died, I did file a claim for him with the Department of Veterans Affairs. They never denied him, they never awarded him, they never acknowledged him. When the claim became mine after he died, I had no idea that they had changed the law about boots on ground. So when I went back to the VA to ask for benefits, they told me I would never get anything because my husband was in the Navy. I said, watch me, don't get in my way. Okay? Well, 4.5 years later, 2 trips before the Board of Veterans Appeals, I won my claim. Once I won, I sat down and I gave this a lot of thought. And I said, you know, over the years, I have done a lot of research. And I saw that John, my husband, was not the only one that was suffering from this. And if I, as a widow, was being treated like this, so was many other widows and many other sailors. So a group of us got together. I got to meet Susie, and I got to meet John Rossi, and we put together a group. And then we brought Commander Wells on board, and we called it Blue Water Navy. Well, we call it Blue Water Navy Family because we are a family. We're there to support each other and to help each other. And this bill that's in Congress, H.R. 969, with 319 co-sponsors. And the bill that's in the Senate, S681, with 41 co-sponsors now, needs to get through this year because we can't lose any more of these guys without them getting their benefits in, without them being able to take care of their families, and without them being able to take care of their wives. And that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you. And we're going to continue to march on this and fight. And now we want to bring up one of our commanders here for this, John Wells. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a hard concept. The Agent Orange was mixed with fuel oil. Fuel oil floats. We sprayed the rivers. We sprayed the river banks. We sprayed the ground, and the rain washed it into the rivers. Rivers run out to sea. And the distillation plants of the ships sitting out there would take that Agent Orange contaminated salt water to change it into drinking water, giving these folks a straight shot of Agent Orange into their drinking water. When I sat down across from the Deputy Secretary of Veterans Affairs, he admitted to me that he had nobody working this problem with any knowledge of surface ship experience. I'm a retired commander. I was an engineer on a lot of these ships. I can tell you this is what happened. All the scientific evidence supports it's what's happened. Congressman Gibson, Senator Daines, Senator Gillibrand, and all the people you see here have been fantastic. We started coming up here. Nobody had heard of us. We were just a few constituents. And now we have the support of 75% of the Congress and almost half of the Senate, and they are doing a fantastic job. Let's get this bill through, but please ask everyone, write their Congress, write their Senate, let them know how important this is. We're talking about 90,000 vets, but we don't know how many have passed on, like Carol's husband. And for them we pray. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commander. And now we're going to hear from the Executive Director of the Blue Water Navy Association, John Rossi. John. Thank you.
Well, I've been at this for 9 years, and it's getting kind of tiresome. Same games every year. I'm surrounded by some wonderful supporters, and I say that, and I think that they would probably agree with me that there are some games being played. Now, there's been some mention of the absurdity of the VA at this point in time, and I think I'm just going to come right out and say it. What they've done is they've drawn a line on a map, and they've said, you know, whether it was blown in the air or whether it was floating on the water, no dioxin, which is the component in Agent Orange that causes the illness, no dioxin passed this line right down the coast. And they're certain of it. I'm not so certain. So that's what we're fighting for.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Thank you, John. We're going to keep that fight going. I want to hear from Tom Sneef next. He's also with the Blue Water Navy Vietnam Veterans. Thank you. Thank you.
To me too. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, and on behalf of the Fleet Reserve Association, I want to thank Representative Gibson and his staff and for arranging this press conference. Also to the members of Congress, my fellow VSOs, and for family members who continually push on this very important legislation for Blue Water Navy. I'm a retired Master Chief, retired surface warfare type, so I understand the whole thing about water and how it gets into the system. The time has come for Congress and the White House to take immediate action and to passage of this bill for our sea service personnel who served on ships during this very unpopular war. We need to push back on scientific verbiage that restricts benefits and care for hundreds of thousands of those silent warriors and caregivers who cry and have been for 50 years. The Department of Veteran Affairs has drawn a definitive line for benefits at the rivers and entrance into the Tonkin Gulf, based upon a recent IOM study. This in itself is, quote, a scientific law of nature, unquote. They claim that the Blue Water Navy veterans are not within the scientific measures to support, due to, as the report says, inadequate or insufficient evidences. The Australian shipboard processes of desalination or water making of dioxide water was exactly the same as on our U.S. destroyers and ships in the Gulf. Australian crews, however, are receiving benefits and treatments for presumptive illnesses. Why isn't the United States Navy receiving the same thing? I ask that. Why? We have the largest co-sponsorship in Congress pass this legislation. To make further reviews, studies, or case simplified of the U.S. ships is still a stall mechanism by the VA to avoid benefits and care to the aging Vietnam veterans population. Again, the U.S. Vietnam veteran shares the same aggregated and illnesses that our Australian counterparts do. The cost of care is a consequence of war. We have the funding to be sent to war, but limited funding for its treatment. Widows have expressed, and I quote just recently 2 weeks ago, "It is easier and cheaper to bury a navy blue water than to provide benefits and care." That is an easy way out, as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of others. If you really want to thank a Blue Water veteran, pass the bill in this 114th Congress with the White House and without capricious scientific rhetoric or stalling. Once again, I thank you, and let's press on.
Thank you. Awesome. Great words.
Thank you.
Great words, Tom. Now we're going to give an opportunity for our members that are supporting to make some brief remarks. I want to begin with Roger Williams.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. What a great honor to be here today. You know, we have an obligation. When do we do something that's right for our veterans, for crying out loud? We get a chance every day, and sometimes we do not perform. This is the opportunity we have to do the right things for our veterans. This bill must be passed. This bill must be signed. And I say, regardless of land or sea, it's all about freedom and liberty. And that's what these men and women have fought for. And I can't think of anything greater than to support this bill. And what more could we do in Congress than to send the message to our veterans that served in Vietnam that we love you and we appreciate you. I look forward to the passage of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from my colleague and neighbor just to the north and friend, Paul Tonko. Paul, thank you.
Northern buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Well, I stand in support of the HR 969. It's so important to bear in mind that our Vietnam vets defended freedom and justice for this nation and the world. And it is now our goal and our challenge to defend their freedom from Agent Orange and the justice of responding in a way that says whether you served us on soil or at sea, you deserve to be covered from the impacts, the devastating impacts of Agent Orange. This is about freedom, it's about justice, and it brings hope to those Vietnam vets who may have been impacted by Agent Orange. So
Thank you,
I
Paul.
stand tall with all of you, and let's get it done.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Thank you. And next, we're going to hear from a representative from New Jersey, Leonard Lance. Thank you, Leonard.
It's the Navy, for God's sake. Most members served in blue water. Vietnam War, based upon the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, not some stream in the middle of Vietnam. Let's bring common sense back to this issue. let's support this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leonard. Thank you. Thank you, Leonard. And next we're going to hear from Beto O'Rourke from Texas. Thank you, Beto, for your leadership on this issue. Thank you. Thanks.
I just want to begin by thanking the veterans, their family members, and the advocates who stand behind us. They are the moral imperative that pushes us forward. They're going to help guarantee and hold us accountable to get this passed and to make it law. I want to thank Senator Gillibrand and Senator Daines, who left, and I really want to thank my colleague, Chris Gibson. I know we're going to get this done. It is going to be because of his leadership, the people that he's brought together, and we are really going to miss you in the House, miss your leadership and your work on issues like these. But while you're here, in the months that remain, we're going to use everything we can out of you, including in getting this passed. So looking forward to that. So thank you for your leadership on this.
Yep. Thank you, Beto. And I'll just say that how important it is to have members of the Veterans Affairs Committee with us on this, and that's Beto. We really appreciate that. And speaking of veterans, we're going to bring up a retired Lieutenant Colonel from the United States Air Force, a great American hero, Bill Johnson. Thank you for your support. Wow.
Well, he had to out me and tell everybody I was Air Force, not the Navy, but that's okay. I did serve, though, during the Vietnam War. Unlike many of my family, friends, and now many of my constituents, I never served in country or off the shores. One such constituent that I do have, though, Mike Caventus of Guernsey County, was one such veteran that did. I'm grateful to all of our American heroes that served. One of my top priorities as the representative of Eastern and Southeastern Ohio is to make sure that our veterans and their families get the benefits that they have earned. I can tell you, folks, there is no segment of our society to whom we owe more. Many of our Vietnam vets didn't ask to be sent to war, but they went, and they served courageously and admirably. This legislation is far too late, but it's the least we can do for veterans like Mr. Caventus, who gave so much to their country. So I call on all of my colleagues, regardless of your political persuasion, get engaged. Let's force the VA to rewrite their Agent Orange presumptive coverage regulations and be consistent with the wishes of the Congress, and let's protect our veterans. God bless you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you for your service. And next we're going to hear from the highest-ranking enlisted man to ever serve in this House. And he's just a tremendous guy and a great American hero, Sergeant Major retired Tim Walsh from Minnesota. Thank you, Tim.
Well, thank you all for being out here, especially the folks you've seen here behind us. They've lived with this issue for the last better than 4 decades. And you heard from my colleagues, this issue is constituent driven. Every single one of us has people that we know well and their families, like Maynard from Minnesota, that we talk to regularly that understand what's at stake here. And I think last fall when we allowed the Agent Orange Act to expire, this Congress loses the leverage that we had to have the IOM studies and being data-driven as we've always been to make our case. We've been making the case for decades that blue water needed to be added, and we had the science behind us. With that expiring, the need for this piece of legislation that the senators and Chris and David have put together and the rest of the members here see backing it is absolutely critical for the House to take this back, to speak for our constituents, and to finally move this issue forward. There's more momentum now than there has probably been in decades. We need to get the thing passed. We need to do what's right. And all you have to do, you're hearing lots of people speak, but when you heard Carol speak, that's what it's all about, and we'll get it done. So thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Sergeant Major. Thank you. Thank you, Sergeant Major. Next, we're going to hear from Elise Stefanik. She's in her first term, but she's off to a tremendous start. She's on the Armed Services Committee, and she's already a vice chairman of one of the subcommittees. She has taken on this issue. She's got constituents here from the district. We deeply appreciate her leadership. Elise Stefanik.
Thank you, Chris. I'm the proud representative of New York's 21st District, which is home to more veterans than any other congressional district in New York State. I hear firsthand every week the frustrations that our Blue Water vets are facing trying to get the benefits that they have earned. It is long past time that the VA stop this outrageous treatment of our brave Vietnam vets, and I am proud to stand here today with our Blue Water veterans. I'm also particularly pleased to have my constituent and one of the leading advocates on behalf of our veterans, Susie Bellinger. Thank you so much for your leadership, and thank you for coming here today. And I want to thank my good friend Congressman Gibson for his leadership, Senator Gillibrand and Senator Daines. Thank you.
Elise. Thank you so much. Thank you. I mentioned, thank you, Elise, and I mentioned just moments ago how important it is to have members from the Committee of Jurisdiction on this bill. And I want to introduce the next one is also on the Veterans Affairs Committee. It's Ryan Costello. Ryan, thank you for stepping forward and leading on this bill. Thank you. It's really meaningful.
You know, sometimes we struggle to put a human face on many of the bills that come before us in Congress, but this bill literally has tens of thousands of faces across this country of veterans who really are entitled to a benefit, and rather than have them receive that benefit, we as members of Congress oftentimes have to have constituents come to us and we have to fight for them to get this benefit. What this bill does is replaces having to fight for a benefit to enabling us to cooperate between the constituent and the VA to get the veteran the benefit that they're entitled to. We want to stop fighting and start cooperating. If I could sum this bill up, that's what it means to me. I want to just recognize the Reading Eagle, a local paper of mine, who put forth the names and faces of many veterans in my district who are not receiving the benefit that they are entitled to. And I also want to thank many of the members of Congress here standing up and leading on this issue, as well as all those who have served who are here today as well. Thank you very much, Chris.
Great work. Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. And next up, I want to bring John Katko. Like Elise Stefanik, he's also in his first term. He's doing tremendous work. In fact, he's passed 11 bills in his house, so it's great to have a heavy lifter working on this bill. John Katko.
Thank you. It's hard to believe after all these decades that these great people standing behind me, their families, their friends, and people they've lost, are still fighting for the basic coverage that they so richly deserve. We live on the greatest country that God ever conceived, and it's unfathomable to me that this hasn't been taken care of yet. We can do better, we should do better, and for all of them, we must do better. And I want to say to the folks who have served, and your families of those who have served, you did your job, and now it's time for Congress and the Senate to do their job and pass this bill once and for all. And I want to thank Chris for being such an inspiration to me since I've been in Congress. In fact, on this issue and Agent Orange in general, he inspired me so much that I'm taking up the torch with a bill that I've introduced to help further look at the Agent Orange issue with respect to families and downstream generations and how Agent Orange has affected them. That's the Lawrence Hackett bill. So thank you, Chris, and thank all of you. And I can tell you we're going to keep fighting until we get this done, okay?
Thank you.
All right. God bless you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, John. You know, earlier I mentioned how this is supported from every corner of the United States House. Keith Rothfuss, who's a proud conservative, who stands up for our servicemen and women, also on this bill. I want to bring up Keith. Thank you for your support, Keith. Yeah.
Chris, thank you. I represent Western Pennsylvania, PA 12, home to a lot of Vietnam veterans, including Vietnam Veterans Association number 862, local chapter, third most active in the whole country. Last year, we marked the 50th anniversary of the commencement of major hostilities in Vietnam and the 40th anniversary of the end of the war. The boys and girls who served 40 to 50 years ago were in their late teens and early 20s back then. Now they're in their 60s and 70s. We need to ensure that we are doing everything we can to address any service-connected condition they have. That's what this bill does. I commend Mr. Gibson for his leadership. Look forward to getting it over the line with him. Thanks, Chris.
You're the man. Thank you so much. I'm going to bring up next somebody who's been fighting for veterans. He's a veteran himself of the National Guard in North Carolina. And since I first came to Congress, I had a chance to talk to this very sincere man and to really hear his stories of him being to the funerals of those fallen heroes in his district. And I deeply appreciate his sincerity, his hard work. Walter Jones. Come on, Walter. Thank you so much. Thank you. Chris, means a lot. Means a lot.
Chris, thank you very much. I was listening to those families who lost loved ones because of their loved ones being exposed to Agent Orange during the Vietnam War. I think about the Vietnam veteran that's still living today. We have over 80,000 that live in the 3rd District of North Carolina, which I have the privilege to serve. Many of the 80,000 were in the Navy at this time during the Vietnam War. I'm going to be very brief. Chris, thank you, and thank the senators for pushing this issue. This is an issue that is justified. This is an issue that no veteran should have to be fighting for benefits when they've given so much during war. And I will close this way, that a nation that sends our young men and women to fight, in this case the Vietnam War, and we forget their benefits, then we have forgotten the love of God for America. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Thank you. Thank you, Walter. Thank you for that passion. Our cleanup hitter today, Tom Reed, I'll tell you, I've spent a lot of time with him and his veterans. They deeply appreciate how much he listens, how hard he fights. Tom, thank you for being on this bill and for your leadership. Tom Reed.
Hey, all right, Chris. Well, thank you, Chris. And Carol, Susie, John, can you step forward? Step up there. You know, I'm from a military family. My dad, a Silver Star recipient. And we were taught, all 12 of us, that not only do you stand with your men and women when they go off to war, but most importantly, you stand with them and their families when they come home forever. So this fight is not about us as members of Congress. This fight is to tell these folks who had our back that we will stand with you shoulder to shoulder in the House and Senate to take care of this issue, because it's the right thing to do. And I promise you, I believe we will get this done this Congress. Amen. Thank you.
And as we wrap up, I just want to mention a few of the other groups that are here today. United Soldiers and Sailors of America, the Vietnam Veterans of America, the VFW, and MOA here as well. So I promised you 30 minutes. I think I went about a minute and a half over. But we really appreciate your patience. We need your help. I want to just finish with this. We need your help. You know, we have tremendous support here. We need to get more exposure to this issue. This is critically important. Time is of the essence, and we need to get this done. At this point, I'll stand for your questions.
Great job.
All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Bless you. Thank you very much. Thank you.